Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday, the 10th of August, 2024, and I have a lot of news to get to, but I also want to, at the end of the video, kind of things I really enjoy talking about, which is more of the esoteric stuff, the more astrotheology stuff, and of course, the shape of the earth. But I digress before I get to that. I'm bringing it up to people who are watching. There's been so much content I've shared over multiple social media platforms regarding COVID, regarding what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, Afghanistan, Israel, Palestine, and still within all levels of our government, in all first world countries and pretty much internationally, people are still not getting accurate information. And that only includes not just from mainstream media, but also now like what we're considering independent news outlets and in all levels of government. So cabinet, Senate, the experts they're using, military contractors they're using, and others. And it's just frustrating because I've been trying to share with them medical, scientific, and government data, and there's like me, and we get shut down completely, and yet there's still people getting targeted today over things regarding COVID that were not crimes, that shouldn't be considered to be a crime or racketeering or anything like that. But of course, doctors getting targeted. Just a week or so, I don't know how long but for people that were alternatively not wanting to get the therapeutic that was not a vaccine, people wanted to still live their lives, and so they got barcodes and they paid for it, without giving them the vaccine. And yeah, I think that these people are heroes, and so I hope that if anyone's being investigated, doctors in Canada that did that, I hope that they get a bonus. All right, and I hope that the doctors that were knowing that the variants were coming out were showing that this was something that we really needed to stop taking. Once investigated, because they got a lot of money for this. I've said this before. There were people that were doctors, even pediatrics, like I was showing the guy from BC, that got heavy donations from the pharmaceutical complex, including Pfizer, over $1 million, and of course they were pushing the therapeutics because they got money for it, shares and stocks in these companies and contracts and helping friends and family and people that are still working in cabinet. They need to be investigated for absolutely ethics violations, but at a minimum financial crimes that caused harm and death and suffering to millions of Canadians. And so it'd be nice if our taxpayer money would actually go into investigating the rules. But I digress. I'll share even yet again what I've shared with multiple levels of government, including health experts and Public Health Ontario, who's initiating these investigations. Yet they're the ones that were pushing against something that was a bioweapon. I know that sounds conspiratorial, but they were given the VAERS, so they knew that people were contracting COVID even through the inaction, even as of February of 2021, because people like myself and me personally emailed them and contacted the office, and there was never a follow-up. I also gave them the debunked original trials. I gave them the March 2022 vaccine adverse events reported, and I even stipulated even then that there was financial incentive for people to push the COVID narrative. I'm talking about people within, including doctors and nurses, and yes, only 3 to 5% of the VAERS were actually reported and submitted in these databases. And this is just from Pfizer. So at least I can just stop presenting this and share to literally every single cabinet member: Kieran Moore, Omar Al-Gabrat, Teresa Tam, Patty Hajdu, literally everyone. This is killer analysis of post-authorization adverse event reports received through 28 Feb 2021. Control F. Okay. So you see here for infestations of COVID-19, 6% of people within this group contracted COVID via inoculation. And then there's also like blood clots, tumors, turbocancers, HIV, AIDS, myocarditis, pericarditis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this was known, spontaneous abortions, and this was known as of February of 2021. And so I'm going to see this March 22. Let me just see if you can see that. Yep. And they were sent this as well. So it's an absolute ethics violation when even the states feel like provided him with these reports. The other political parties, I gave this information to, you name it, and people I know as well. And so even with this, and blue, pneumonia contracted via the inoculation. And this was not properly tested. And third-party results showed that other viruses, other illnesses, heavy metals, saline, silicone, like you name it. So here you go. Even here, coronavirus infections, asymptomatic COVID-19, 21, no deaths. These are the cases, these are the deaths. COVID-19, 2,567, 41 deaths. So they already knew that people were getting inoculated and dying from the inoculation as well, because then again, these are VAERS. And again, only 3 to 5% were actually reported. And then you got to total these ones as well, because the 15 deaths, see total and fatal, sorry. And post-acute, suspected, and then again, deaths. And so I'm not even getting into, like I'm saying, like the blood clots, the tumors, the cancers, the all the other illnesses. So many different reproductive issues as well. Believe it. But anyways, this was sent to all levels of government, including the head of the RCMP, the head of the Canadian Armed Forces, head of the OPS, OP, you name it. And I sent even and nothing yet. Right? I'd call. This sounds really important. Like, oh yes, and then I'm like, they provide me an email address. I would give them all the data in an email address, and no, absolutely no follow up. And so for people where this is redundant, I apologize. But see this, I even my resume against 2021 minimum. I've been sending this information to all levels of government. That was to myself because again, like you know, it is what it is. When you're possibly getting money off of a product, you want to shut people down that are speaking out against it. Helen Bruce might share more information on her yet again, but she's Ottawa Police Services over 20 years, and she was working with SACA for over 7 years. That was investigating a possible linkage between the COVID-19 shot and sudden infant deaths, and this is something that was getting shut down completely, and even now the courts fight against this, and yeah, so Public Health Ontario, I provided them so much research, again, the original trials, the miscarriages, you name it, about the excess deaths and those who were vaccinated, like technical briefing notes. Again, this is all official documentation. I gave them a breakdown of it. I gave them the memorandum from the chief medical officer admits to the vaccine ineffectiveness. It's right here. Breakthrough cases occurring. Yeah. And this was August 2021. So I gave the provisional death counts. I showed it, information about natural immunity being superior. I talked about aspirating needles. They were not needles, and absolutely a difference between intramuscular versus cellular vaccine delivery. Talked about the waning immunity and the white blood cells not properly developing fast enough over a period of time, not at healthy levels anymore. I talked about Ontario policy on inflating numbers by 66 to 80%. It was actually more than that because I even shared in the small, or even from the start, they would anyone they would declare a COVID death, they were increasing by 50% right off the get-go, and then from like 66 to like 80, over 80% of inflating numbers. And then now they've archived that. But again, I got the information and I just go on the Wayback Machine and I check this information because it's out there. Talked about it being a viral flu / pneumonia, and how adipose fat tissue was targeted more. And so the people that were obese and or had multiple comorbid conditions, they had more adverse events to sickness and virus and injury in general. Yeah, I talked about the myocarditis and pericarditis on the mRNA vaccines. I talked about it being FDA approved. Again, I shared so much more information than this even. This is just very incredibly frustrating that they were given this, and not only this. Oh, you can't even see it, or can you? Yeah, you can. Okay. Oh no, maybe you didn't see it. But anyways, I'm putting it out. Okay, so I'll go back to this, and I'll go to for the ombudsman. And again, I give this all to people within the military to share with their chain of command and get minuted. No, neither chain of command actually minuted any of these documents. So all they had to do, like this was the date for the template, and then just their service number and their entry. And references I gave them were literally talking about the original trial being debunked. There was no placebo group, etc. And there were people that were contracting via inoculation and so much more. And I wasn't tested on pregnant women. Excess deaths, spontaneous abortions, not aspirating needles, inflating numbers from like a website up from Ontario, the province of Ontario, because that's where I'm from. Or not, I'm not from here, I'm from Quebec, but I live here now. A Privacy Act. Setting so many references like the PIPEDA, FIPA, right to for medical treatment, informed consent. We didn't have informed consent because they were lying. We wouldn't contract COVID if you got vaccinated, or wouldn't have severe lies. Yeah. So yeah, no longitudinal studies conducted. Sent. So elements of consent, elements required for consent to treatment. The consent must relate to the treatment. The consent must be informed. The consent voluntarily. The consent must not be obtained through misrepresentation or fraud. So all of these, I believe, were at play for therapeutics specifically. I'm talking about Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, AstraZeneca. They were absolutely burying the VAERS. Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Code, Helsinki Declaration, like we provided everything. And no one within the Canadian Armed Forces or law enforcement agencies with Helen Bruce, she tried to get this to the Chief of Police of Ottawa, Chief Slowly, wouldn't look at it. It's just unbelievable. And people I know, even pregnant. And anyway, on to the news. It would just be nice, like, got investigated, or people like Bill Blair, who's also like attempted to incite riots on Canadians to have the Emergency Act declared, and Brian Fox, the head of Enterprise, possibly being the one running out of that first weekend of the Freedom Convoy and having that Nazi flag or that racist flag, and yeah, trying to elicit emotional responses and people to do things they wouldn't have not necessarily done, just like January 6th with people from within, like pushing people in windows and trying to get them to like go with them, like riots, and countless others. I have so many videos on that on January 6th. I have more information on January 6th, I think, than anyone. And so Don 189, I highly recommend taking a look at my YouTube channel. Like it got deleted again a little while ago, twice this year already. And so Rumble is the one place that you're going to get all my, at least a bit of my information since August of 2022, I think. Anyway, you redacted again with a breakdown of what's going on.
That happen in the Middle East. We'll get to Larry here in a second. But first, if you want a way to simplify financial operations for your business across expenses, vendor payments, and accounting, if so, our friends at Ramp could be a costs. So I hear from you. Or against Iran, about to see a massive false flag operation that would harm American soldiers. Former CIA agent Larry Johnson joins us now. He has been outspoken on this from the very beginning, that Americans should not be involved in this and we should not be there. And he joins us now. Larry, great to see you. It seems like we're on the precipice.
Yeah, we're staring War III in the face. This is alarming. The movement of U.S. forces that's underway tells you that movement of these forces is not a reaction to what happened. It was pre-planned. In other words, because this is not like you call up Domino's and order a pizza. I need a pepperoni in 30 minutes, and they whip it up and deliver it. First of all, you've got all these sailors and Marines that have to be ordered to get on board ships. And those ships have to be stocked, supplied. They're not, some are saying they're ready to go, but some aren't if they're being, if they've been out of the sea. So the fact that you've now got 3 carrier task force groups moving into that region, plus the one that caught my eye, the announcement that you had this Marine, basically a Marine expeditionary, what they call it, MU. That's a package of about 4,000 Marines, and their job to do what they call non-evacuation operations, so or NEO. I don't put military acronyms on you. So we got the MU doing the NEO, and NEO is there for, excuse me, people like in Lebanon or in Israel who can't get out because all the airports are shut. This will allow those ships to go in and load up American citizens and others willing to flee the region. So that was pre-positioned. I mean, that's what caught my eye. That I think that my own view is there's a preemptive war coming, and it's going to be struck by the West.
Well, as we see this too, we also have reporting today from Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. Israel a preemptive strike against Iran. So this sort of preemption, this idea that they're going to attack, we need to be out in front of this. I think this is really scary for a lot of Americans who are familiar with false flag attacks. I felt like dusting my USS Liberty hat to wear for this today, to remind Americans the last time in 1967 when U.S. sailors were sat right there and used as target, killed by Israel, attacked by Israel in order to draw the United States into a war against Egypt. Of course, your old organization, the CIA, was actively involved in that, of course, we know. But so are we about to see another USS Liberty false flag operation using American soldiers and sailors sitting there on American aircraft carriers us into a war against Iran? What did we say to that? Or because we're calling it out, maybe we won't have it happen.
If you're not familiar with the USS Liberty, I do have videos on Rumble about that as well, and I highly encourage you to take a look at it, including witness accounts.
Much a false flag, as it is. Israel's sort of not politically, militarily. I'll carry out this and assassination of the lead negotiator in Tehran. So it's a clear violation of international law. It's a terrorist act. That's what it is. If Iran had done that to Israel, we'd be calling it international terrorism. So let's call it what it is. It was a terrorist attack by Israel. And Israel's been guilty of several terrorist attacks in Iran, but we just don't call them that. Plus, the United States has been back in a group called Mujahideen, who is MEK. They were on our terrorist list when I was working the issue. They were sort of a Marxist, it's not crazy, a Marxist Islamist group, but they were radical against the Shia Islamists that took over Iran. We took them off the list and started giving them money, for God's sake. So we back terrorists in the United States. So here it is, Israel conducts this terrorist attack, and then Iran says it's going to retaliate, and then Israel goes, well, by God, we're going to preempt that retaliation. So they're trying to play the victim while they're also the aggressor. They're both in this wild card here that makes it so dangerous. Is the fact that Iran is at least a 5-year mutual defense relation with Russia and China. They started conducting their first joint military exercises in 2019. Now, and that conduct that in 2019, they started planning for it in like 2018. Well, you had Sergei Shoigu, defense minister, who's now Putin's national security advisor, personal advisor. He went to Iran. there have been significant airlift traffic between Moscow and Iran. The speculation is that it's bringing in electronic warfare capabilities. It's also probably bringing in S-400 air. And you've got Shoigu consulting with the Iranians on both trying to understand what they're doing, understand what they're doing, make sure that it doesn't necessarily get out of control. But the United States moving aircraft carriers in there, the only message that Iran can take out of there is they're preparing, the United States is preparing to launch airstrikes in Iran.
So the United States launches airstrikes in Iran. What then does Russia do in response? Russia there, of course, you mentioned meeting in Tehran. Is this where World War III begins? Is in the Middle East. It doesn't happen on the battlefield in Ukraine. It doesn't happen in Africa, where we've come face to face with Russian soldiers. It happens in the Middle East.
Yeah, no, potentially. I mean, that's what old guy. This never been this dangerous, this fraught with peril, and even the Cuban Missile Crisis, because adding to these tensions in the Middle East, the likelihood that Iran is going to hit Israel and hit Israel hard this time. The United States is going to try to do what it can to stop some of the drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles. But in response to that, any attacks upon a Russian asset will elicit a Russian military response. American people don't realize that over the last 8 years, the Russians have shot down in Syria about 5 U.S. drones. We're not talking Syrian shooting down. The Russians have shot them down because U.S. drones, Predator drones, have strayed into the territory that the Russians said, hey, this is ours, you come into our territory.
Oh. Maybe if I shine for a minute. I'll see if I can stream X. Some things I wanted to share on that. So I am looking at Starlink. I just really didn't want to go that route just because who owns it? Should we still out on him? Okay, let me see here.
What we're working on today is a strong connection between the Cheney family and the URIC family. Roger URIC. Liz Cheney calls out to the URIC family, wishes them a happy 50th anniversary. Very tight connection, reminiscent of the George Bush connection with the Hinckleys. He's having with Barbara Bush dinner. This is the senior Bush with Hinckley's parents as the son is shooting Ronald Reagan. And if he's successful, the son is successful killing Ronald Reagan, George president. So this Cheney URIC connection is unbelievable. Remember, this is the Roger URIC that trains at Carter Rock. It's a Navy SEAL school developing surface weapons. The idea is to develop a collapsible weapon, sniper weapon, 3 times the energetics with the 408 round than you have with the 308. This helps you in assassinations. You're trying to get the bulletproof glass, right? Bulletproof glass. Where do they make bulletproof glass? First, the last 80 years of making bulletproof glass for the DoD, Building 6. Glass research, unbelievably. We're still dealing with this Roger URIC, South Carolina. 2 factories for this Cheyenne tactical weapon. The Cheyenne tactical weapons developed in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where Dick Cheney's a congressman, where he lives there. And he's living at the Air Force Base, or is working at the Air Force Base, transferring this technology into the civilian world, civilian sniper world. And he's at the Warren Air Force Base, right? Was his classmate at Warren Air Force Base and would be the only person maybe left to identify who he is, the real Roger URIC, right, is Copenhaver, one of the victims of Trump's shooting. Unbelievable, but true. USAF, Warren Air Force Base, Cheyenne, Wyoming. There's the connection with, of course, Maxwell URIC goes to high school. This Antifa and perhaps ATF agent Maxwell Yurk goes to high school and also community college there in South Carolina before he onto his Antifa activities in every state of the country. Now we're finding Antifa activities in the hundreds of people, 500 in the Seattle, 500 in the action in Pittsburgh, at least 500. There's encouraging people to do January 6th, the entrapments there. So Maxwell Yurk has a whole set of things. Wrote a Substack about it, the Cheney Yurk connection, the Cheney sanction, I call it. How the groundwork predicate was all laid for this with NATO, with the Washington NATO plan. We went to Norfolk, we went to the basis of the ACT command, ACT Blue. Anyway, we went to, isn't that where Hunter Biden got his BlackBerry and his Navy commission when he was, when the Congress gave him a captain's commission or whatever they gave him? I think it was a captain's commission in the Navy. Norfolk is the center, and that they could always declare Article 5, any threat to democracy is a threat to the continuity of government. Remember, we had on July 9th.
Oh, he's doing so well.
The meeting where he stuck, Biden stuck Zelensky to Putin at the same meeting, declaration of Article 5. Declaration and providing the groundwork for the Cheney sanction. The Cheney sanction. The Cheney sanction is.
I'm sorry, guys. No.
Subject of my Substack, georgewebb.substack.com.
georgewebb.substack.com. If you want to look at this video from my my X account, DAWNDUSSAUL. Just gonna connect there. Okay. Where is? Oh my goodness. Oh, well, okay. I'm going to try to work through it.
In the name of the so-called Islamic State, and how he was to immigrate to Canada. Critics are calling it a failure in border security. Our Ottawa bureau chief Mercedes Stevenson joined us now. Mercedes, what have we learned?
Neither the federal government is refusing to explain how a Toronto man was able to immigrate to Canada despite allegedly having taken part in ISIS violence overseas in Iraq before he moved to Canada. Ahmed Fouad Mustafa El-Didi is facing multiple terror charges in relation to a planned machete axe attack in Toronto. El-Didi was also charged with aggravated assault on behalf of the so-called Islamic State, which the RCMP say took place abroad in 2015. Violence that multiple national security sources say part documented in an ISIS propaganda video released in 2015. Showing the torture and dismemberment of an ISIS prisoner by a middle-aged man with a sword. Global News has viewed the video that multiple national security sources say is believed to show El-Didi hacking off a prisoner's hands and feet while the man is tied to a crucifix in the desert. Global News is not showing the video due to its graphic content and is not identifying the sources who spoke to us who have direct knowledge of the investigation but are not authorized to speak publicly. Ahmed El-Didi is also arrested along with his son Mustafa in a Richmond Hill hotel. Sources say they had just finished taping a so-called martyrdom video in which they appeared with an axe and a machete as well as an ISIS flag.
And it's not Canadian.
So, Mercedes, what does this seem to say of the immigration system?
Well, a lot of questions being raised. We still don't know how or when El-Didi came to Canada because the federal government is citing privacy in court proceedings, refusing to release that information. We did learn that the RCMP got one thing wrong. El-Didi's 26-year-old son, Mustafa, is not a Canadian citizen, as they stated. Kelly Sundberg is an immigration enforcement officer who is now retired and become a professor. He says this case is deeply concerning and not the first time security in immigration has failed.
This is yet another alarm bell going off about the woeful lacking border security in our country.
Sandberg says the system is under-resourced and that there's a lack of political will to fix it.
There's a lot of people who could have lost their lives because of politicking, and that should really involve Canadians.
The Conservative opposition is calling for the government to disclose what happened in this case.
We need to know how somebody came into the country after being depicted on camera, allegedly doing unspeakable acts. And then we have other questions. How did this person get citizenship?
And how is this person not on national security sources' radar before July, Neetu, which is when the RCMP said they first became aware of the concern? So lots of questions for the government here in Ottawa about our security.
Indeed, there are. All right, Mercedes Stevenson in Ottawa. Thanks, Mercedes, for joining us. There are more questions.
So Mercedes Stevenson, that was a great report. So kudos to you. And yeah, very impressed with that report. I'll go down the line here to see if there's anything else. Ontario teacher made it onto the case against farmers. Oh my goodness. Project Veritas. Now it's back onto redacted because they're still talking about possible world war. So let's hear what they have.
Shot it down. We haven't heard a word about that. That's what that's been going on behind the scenes. So Russia has vowed that it's going to equip people like the Iranians, the Houthis, with weapons that can hit U.S. assets in response to what the United States has done by in Ukraine to hit and kill Russian citizens. So we're entering a new level of conflict.
So for people that watch and they say, well, you know, any sort of dissent, any sort of saying that Americans shouldn't go after Israel is anti-Semitic. That's my favorite. I mean, that is the statements, right? But I just can't wrap my head around how anyone could justify, if you're a United citizen, if you're American, what benefit you would get for the United States of America to go and die and fight for Israel, or go and die and fight in the Middle East against Iran and getting dragged into a massive regional war. What benefit does the United States have by going there and dying for this cause?
Well, it's not, and let's be specific about the cause we're being asked for. This is not about
and for people that are working on left and right, same bird, people that are within Senate, within cabinet, the experts, the military contractors, the other agencies are contracting. It's they're making a lot of money stuff on the backs of the taxpayers, just to be clear.
Defending freedom. This is about preventing Jews from being executed in gas chambers.
Already rich people.
This is about a group of people, these radical Zionists that are represented just not only Bibi Netanyahu, but Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. These people call for and celebrate the rape of Palestinians. I mean, they're literally raping them. They say that they're entitled to do that. They storm prisons and want to rape using both brooms as well as themselves to violate Palestinian men, Palestinian women. I mean, it's sickening. It is, yes, it's controversial to say, but this group of Zionists, I don't want to call them Israelis, because there are a number of Israelis that oppose this.
Yep. That's true.
That speak out in opposition.
He's right.
But these extreme Zionists represent the very thing that they claim that they were fighting in World War II. They're acting and behaving like Nazis, like the SS camp guards in terms of their treatment of prisoners, their wanton execution of women and children. Yep. It's horrific. And so, no, America shouldn't stand for that at all. And yet, what we have, as you've reported several times on your show, the money machine from the American Israel Public Affairs Committee,
and even Canadian money going towards this, and people within government that are sharing misinformation, not only in their meetings and their debriefs, but also on their social media platforms to the public. So how is that not an ethics violation when we're funding genocides or possible crimes against humanity? And there's 9 IDF soldiers that just recently got charged. So getting charged, you know it's bad, and you know it got more public, and so had to be controlled. Raping a Palestinian so badly that she couldn't even walk anymore. And so if you take a look at what's been going on for a while, you're going to see things, but you're going to have to go off of like an uncensored browser, and connect outside of Canada and largely in the US and in areas as well, because we are so heavily censored. And we have the right to know. We have a right to know and an obligation to know, right?
AIPAC
Anyway.
has been pouring money in to defeat candidates that are the blue and white flag of Israel.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And well, that's why there's 10,000 people protesting in Tel Aviv against these radical Zionists, against the Netanyahu regime. But the Western media will not cover that at all, of course. They won't cover that story. But we will. And Larry Johnson is always great to have on the show. Really shed some truth on us a little bit. Larry, great to see you as always. And I hope you guys stay safe down here, dealing with Hurricane Debbie. Hopefully you guys dodged quite a bullet down there. I know you have like a foot of water and everything. Hopefully you guys are doing okay.
Doing all right. Thank you.
Oh man. Let's see if a video I had on Rumble regarding Harris VP pick walls tied to Westland's open border to destroy U.S. sovereignty. Okay, that's just the title of the video. I just started when I stopped sharing, so I'll see if it'll boot back up.
Georgia, the eye of the storm, and a lot of, I think 5 people have died so far. So if you guys are in the storm's path down there in the south, God bless you. Hope you guys stay safe. Please, we used to say, do not drive through any freaking standing water. It's the thing that ends up killing people the most. So please be safe down there. We got more news to get to here on your Tuesday. We are going to look at who is Tim Walz. No one knows that outside of Minnesota, and that's for good reason. But boy, are we going to show you vice presidential pick Tim Walz. So we're going to dive deep into his record. This is vice president. Will she placate the left-wing hard left base with this choice? We're going to dive deep into that. We're also going to look at the border crisis and Kamala Harris' record trying to change and trying to rewrite history. In fact, I don't know if you saw overnight, Kamala Harris's father's Wikipedia page was updated. This is amazing. Like, they're literally trying to, in real time, to share history on being a border czar, on everything else. So we're going to look at the border crisis today on the show. Natalie is off today because kids are back to school tomorrow. There are meetings and 3 kids, 3 different schools and all of that craziness. So there's a lot going on here, right? I can't believe I was so thankful. Kids go back to school. One more day, kids go back to school. So great. So great. Are your kids back to school? Let us know here in the comments where you guys around the world.
He graduated a year early, so I don't know if I'll ever have to. Yeah, I don't know.
A year early, like so. Doogie Howser.
Yeah, yeah, he graduated a year early.
Wow, that's great.
I was just going to point out to you really quick, because you talked about Kamala Harris. Like, you'll notice in the media they're only calling her black. Nobody is calling her African American. Like, it's specifically they're only using black, because they can use, if you say African American, they can disprove that.
Oh, okay.
Well, her family wasn't from Africa.
Right.
I know.
Well, no, but now they are. Like, overnight they updated her father's profile on Wikipedia, so now he's Afro Jamaican, not Indian Jamaican anymore. So now I guess that's how you can rewrite history like that. It's crazy. If you ever want to realize what a terrible website Wikipedia is, and in the pockets of the left, run by the left-wing billionaires, that's all you need to know. Anyway, we've got more news to get to in a second. But first, we've been brainwashed into believing the only way we can grow our money for retirement is to risk it all in the stock market. Did you see what happened yesterday, for crying out loud? Imagine if you had all of your family's retirement funds sitting in the stock market. Holy smokes. Yeah, a little bit of your money, fine. Matching with your employers up to 6% or whatever, great, in a 401k. But if you want to reach your financial goals without taking unnecessary risks, then you need to really realize you can bank on yourself and actually invest for yourself. That means investing in alternative plans that lets you bypass Wall Street. That's why our friends at Bank on Yourself can help you do this. Beat the banks at their own game. Take control of your financial future. Guaranteed predictable growth and retirement income with no luck or skill or guesswork required. Your plan doesn't go backwards when the markets start tumbling. Both your principal and your growth are locked in. Tax-free retirement income. All right, you're taking control, just checkbook control of your 401k or your IRA. That's how it works. This is the strategy famous businesses like McDonald's use when no banker would lend them a dime. Basically, they built their own bank for themselves. I love using my self-directed account to invest in real estate, gold, silver, all of that. And most people don't know about it because the banks don't tell you about it. They keep it hidden so you don't learn about it. So check them out. Go to bankonyourself.com/redacted with all the details on how the Bank on Yourself strategy adds guarantees, predictability, and control to your financial plan. Just go to bankonyourself.com/redacted. That's bankonyourself.com/redacted and educate yourself on how you can take control of your finances yourself. I mean, it's really thick, actually. It really bothers me on a fundamental level how people don't know about using self-directed accounts and how you have control of yourself. Okay, where you don't pay Fidelity or these other companies, you have control of your own self-directed account that you can invest in anything you want to, basically. Gold, silver, real estate. You can invest in stocks inside your self-directed account. They don't want you to know about it because they don't make money off of you. You know, it's the scam of Wall Street. So anyway, check them out. These guys are great, and I really support them. All right. Well, if you look up the most disturbing human being to occupy a high political office in the United States, you'd likely see a picture of this person right here. But if you had to pick a second option, that person would be Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a man who, by every account, is as frightening as you can possibly imagine, and even worse. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. We're going to go through his record in a moment. But first, Kamala Harris has just chosen this man, Minnesota Governor Tim.
Oh, now it's going on. Oh, no. Let's see if I stop sharing again. I'm sorry. 24:39 in. Okay. Well then. It's going to be all over the media anyway, so like I'm sure I'm looking at more than a fill of this Walz guy, so I don't have to share. I was going to share this one, but it seems that that redacted they were on top of it as well. It's from the War Against You. Just also discusses it, and
thank you. Yes, thank you.
What was the response from Trump regarding the regarding Harris's pick?
For picking this guy, because under Tim Walz, Minnesota, if you recall, and of course, I'm sure they probably calculated this into their, premise to elect this guy. But do you remember the riots, the BLM riots in Minneapolis? Yeah, this guy was at the helm. Rioters burned Minneapolis ground for days, and Tim Walz was nowhere to be found. This is Kamala's pick. This, too, will burn America down. This is a local news horse.
He got away from it. I want to also add, I'm texting with our news director while we've been on the air saying, I know you have a request from the governor, anything. And they are refusing to make any kind of statement right now. Listen, we know they're busy, but I can't think of anything more important right now than explaining to us why we are allowing this to happen again.
And once again, we are asking the governor, we're asking Mayor Fry, what is the plan here? You said there was a plan yesterday. You said there was a plan for today. Instances we haven't seen.
And tonight it seems
no plan.
It seems even more inexcusable. You can understand how that
excusable.
Maybe got away from them. They didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, they gave up a third precinct.
And tonight,
surrendering
not be able
precincts.
to respond to this, it doesn't make sense. I will explain to us the thinking behind this. Surely they're having these conversations about what we are going to do if and when. What was the conversation around this? If this started again in the 3rd precinct or in a different...
That's just a taste of what America can expect underneath the leadership of Harris and Walz. Complete abandonment. Left to burn. Here's another example. This is the before and after of Minneapolis police station when Walz ignited BLM riots across the state, which caused billions of dollars in damage. Yeah. Look at this. That's the police station 2019. And here it is currently. That's the America that they want. Boarded up and destroyed. Unbelievable. So, as you can imagine, of course, Donald Trump thanking Kamala for this. I'll get into some other reactions. Of course, you know, Kamala was promoting the bail fund for the people that destroyed Minneapolis. That's no secret. Babylon Bee. Beautiful headline right here.
Even before I get into that, I said this in yesterday's video, but even regarding some states now that are extreme left, in my humble opinion, are approving or authorizing policies for illegal immigrants to get driver's licenses, and they're making it, you know, with the vehicles and the drive around, and this is why, you know, to get them to vote. And so this is the loophole that's going to be utilized. And I said this in yesterday's video, we have to be aware of when you are authorizing government issued ID to illegal immigrants, you are possibly canvassing towards that, like a bias of certain political parties. There's a possible agenda behind it.
Tim Walz to make America as great as Minneapolis. Yes, mostly peaceful riots. And here is an interesting post that I came across. In case you know, Kamala's VP Tim Walz signed on to this bill, expressing support for the mission and goals of the World Economic Forum. What else do you need to know? World Economic Forum, supporting them. Let's take a look at what Van Jones had to say. This is a post from the Daily Caller saying that's not good. Van Jones says it worries how conservatives rejoicing over Harris's VP pick. Yeah. The mission of barrel here.
Excited about call. What worries me is you see a lot of relief from the conservatives. They were scared of Josh Shapiro. The conservatives were scared of Mark Kelly. They thought that would help define Kamala more to the middle. You see a lot of rejoicing on the right. That's not good. Also, you've got some disquiet in the Jewish community. Some people had their hopes up. Maybe you're going to get another shot of the Jewish vice president. We haven't had that for 2 decades. Now that gets pulled away. Is it just because he's a monarch, or is there some anti-Jewish bias here? So the part still digesting this.
The poster is because you have this radical wing of the Democrat Party that is cheering on Hamas and cheering on Palestine. So bringing on a Jewish vice president, even CNN last week said that was problematic. So imagine that bringing him into a ticket. It would only further fan the flames for the radicals in the Democrat Party.
If you're a young Muslim or a young Arab or someone who's concerned about Gaza, it gives you a reason to stay excited about Kamala, because that was going to be hard for the party to digest. So you've got a party now trying to figure out, is this good? Is this bad? What does it mean for the young people? What worries me is you.
Now, here's another taste of Minneapolis. This isn't Iraq or the UK. This is Minnesota under Tim Walz as governor. Absolute madness. This is the America that they want for you. Get ready. The ads are going to be writing themselves. The campaign, the Trump campaign, oh yes, already put the pieces together. The narrative are being written. Get ready. We're going to see a lot of this imagery because this is the America that they want for you. Smoke and fire. Under the thumb of socialism. Ian Miles Chong, Kamala Harris and Walz are probably going to win. This is scary because all the illegal immigrants are going to vote for them. American liberals don't care that their money is going to illegals, so this effectively serves as an advertisement for illegals to vote. You post this: New York Post, Tim Walz and laws catering to illegal migrants, giving them free health care. That's what they're hoping for. Open borders? How many millions of illegals? All the NGOs supporting, bringing those stuff, distributing them all country, registering them to vote. That's what they're betting on, friends. Here we have again, 20 new VP pick. Governor Tim Walz let Minneapolis become a place for rioting, looting, and anarchy. Trump's campaign for restoring law and order just got a whole lot easier. I mean, how many of these videos do we have to play? This is the America that they want from you. This is the America that Kamala Harris has done. It just gets worse. Let's take a look at a statement from the Trump campaign on Kamala's selection. He said that it's no surprise San Francisco Kamala Harris wants West Coast as a running mate. Walz has spent his governorship trying to reshape Minnesota in the image of the Golden State, while Walz pretends to support Americans in the heartland. When the cameras are off, he believes that rural America is mostly cow and rock. That's cool. From proposing his own carbon-free agenda to suggesting stricter emission standards for gas-powered cars, embracing policies that allow convicted felons to vote, Walz is obsessed with spreading California's dangerous legal agenda far and wide. If Walz won't tell voters the truth, we will. Just like Kamala Harris, Tim Walz is a dangerously liberal extremist, and the Harris-Walz California dream is every American's nightmare. Caroline Leavitt, Trump's campaign press secretary, releasing that just hours ago. Let's take a look now. We've also got Mike Lindell. Of course, Mike Lindell, my pillow guy. Here's his reaction right now because he's from that state.
Have you native Minnesota you're getting the champagne along with your neighbors to celebrate this great victory for Minnesota, right?
Right, absolutely. I'll tell you what, she couldn't have made a big mistake picking him if I was on our team. They both have made some of the worst decisions in political history. And
I've said this in multiple videos that this is a controlled and phased collapse.
And the biggest non-decisions. So they're two of a kind. You have her non-decision down there to keep that border secure. Walz in Minnesota, let him burn down Minneapolis, literally destroy our city. He didn't bring in the National Guard. He makes horrible decisions with the China virus when that came in. We had to sit out in snow to eat. And if you had Thanksgiving, if you had 8 people, I think it was, in your house, the neighbors could turn you in for having too many people in your house. I think Christmas, he gave us 4 more. Just a disgusting individual. And you're right, he's very he doesn't bring any enthusiasm to anything. He just does things, horrible decisions. I know he, when he had the mask, before I knew masks didn't work, I had all the masks for the state of Minnesota, and he shut down our Christian churches. So what I was going to do is distribute all the masks to churches and say, hey, there'll be a mass distributions on Sundays, and you could listen to someone when you're there. I played a game back and forth with that guy, and I was going to run for governor of Minnesota after the 2020 election. Of course, I got trying to secure our elections, so I had other things I had to do. But Walz feared that, and he put out a hit job on me throughout the state, sent postcards out everywhere. Do we want this guy and attacking me, attacking my pillow? And by the way, Minnesota has some of the worst taxes and regulations in the country. We got the regulations we have on business and some of the highest taxes this country's ever seen.
Are you from Minnesota? Drop a comment below. Let me know what life is for you in that state under this governor. You witness any of these things. Here's a DC Drano dropping a video. This is Tim Walz as he signs a law that provides driver's licenses for illegal aliens in Minnesota. He wants all of America to do the same. This guy is radical as it gets. There he is, signing driver's licenses for all. That's the plan. Get them licenses, register them to vote, and then take the election. We are living in very, very dangerous times. They did a bait and switch on us, folks. Bait and switch. Kamala Harris received no vote, 0 votes in their primary. All of a sudden, Biden drops out. Total debate disaster. Of course, that debate was the earliest in American history that gave them enough time, enough runway to build up that media machine, to get the whisper campaigns going, to get Biden to bail out with threats from Pelosi and Obama of the 25th Amendment, and then bring in Kamala Harris, institute a complete AstroTurf campaign, complete with propped up and funded social media posts with influencers at $150 a pop, $20,000 for influencers to show up at the DNC. And now they pick this guy. Wide open borders, give them all licenses, and get them ready to vote. Now here's Kayleigh McEnany. You know, she was the former press secretary for the Trump campaign, posting, I imagine there's a lot of cheering at Mar-a-Lago.
Moderate. And this is a stunning choice. I imagine there's a lot of cheering at Mar-a-Lago at the moment. Look, Tim Walz, he's no one to scoff at. He unseated a 6-term Republican in Congress. He won a conservative.
You got the 9/11 in here too. Like, it's just, oh my God. Come on.
District. He began as a moderate, and then he had a radical transformation as soon as he got a trifecta in Minnesota. I think it's fair to call him a progressive in sheep's clothing. When you look at his record over the last few years, what you see are transgender surgeries for minors, carbon electrical grid by 2040, driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. In a function, his abortion policy allows abortion until birth. These are policies far to the left of America. As John McCormick of the Wall Street Journal pointed out, Kamala Harris has to do the exact opposite of what Tim Walz did. Tim Walz became more progressive. Kamala Harris is trying to become more moderate. The Republicans are going to say, you shred all your progressive policies, but yet you chose a progressive instead of the guy who outperformed Donald Trump and Joe Biden in Pennsylvania, and that man's name is Josh Shapiro.
And now, I want to play this clip here. We got J.D. Vance responding as well. This is a quick clip. This is a regarding the border. Kamala's choice wants open borders, and he even facilitates the ladders to help
And I
them.
think seeing a plan that's out there, talking about it with folks, knowing that he's not going to do anything. He talks about this wall. We say, let me know if it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 3-foot ladder factory. That's not how you stop this. I think.
Wow. That's the language this man is using. He will help them climb over the wall. He's not directing them to the ports of entry. No. Here's a ladder. I'll help you climb over. Get a driver's license. Now, I want to play some of this J.D. Vance reaction. We're going to get to that in a second here of when Walz was arrested for drunk driving, going 96 and a 55. Of course, our own president has a mugshot. So there's that. We've got a clip here of Walz debate. Perhaps a preview of that. Okay, this is okay. So we played. We read the actual response from the Trump press secretary. Now I want to play the clip here. This is her just hours ago.
With this decision, choosing Tim Walz, she has proven just how dangerously liberal she is. Tim Walz is one of the most far-left governors in America. Much like Kamala Harris, he's borders. He supports sanctuary cities in Minnesota. He signed a bill giving licenses to illegal immigrants. Tim Walz, like Harris, is soft on crime. He also supports the defund police movement. In fact, in Minnesota, violent crime has increased by 21% since he has been governor. And like Kamala Harris, Tim Walz is anti-American energy. He signed a bill to ban carbon-based fuels in Minnesota by 2040. That is a threat to our national security. That is a gift to China. If Americans want to know what a Harris-Walz America would look like, look at the streets of Minneapolis in the summer of 2020. They burned to the ground. Look at the streets of San Francisco. Their liberal utopia is every American's worst nightmare, and we'll spend the next 92 days ensuring every American knows how radical the Harris-Walz ticket is.
God help us, please. Oh, this also just breaking too. Apparently, Tim Walz went to China right after the Tiananmen Square events in 1989, and then he took his honeymoon there in 1994. He and his wife opened a Chinese exchange program business. So I wonder what kind of connections he still has with China. Yeah, reminds me of Joe Biden, doesn't it? Now, here's a brutal assessment. This is actually MSNBC. This is really, really interesting. Aki at MSNBC says Tim Walz is performing worse than Obama and worse than Biden in Minnesota small towns.
This is now. Here's the key, because this county, Democrats used to be much more competitive in. Look at this. In 2012, Obama won 43% of the vote in this county. It was only a little bit more than 10. Lost to Romney by here. The floor fell out for Democrats here when Trump came along in the Clinton race in 2016, and they haven't recovered it since. And that Walz performance here, it's a little less than Biden's number, it's more than Clinton's, and it's a far cry from what Obama was doing here. And again, I'm showing you one. This is a stand-in for dozens of counties in Minnesota where you saw the same thing with large rural populations, blue populations, where Obama, and some of them he was winning, others he was holding his own a dozen years ago. This is where Democrats have lost ground. And Walz in 2022, he didn't gain any ground that Democrats had lost. He didn't do that here. He didn't do that in other counties. Walz really owes his victory. That that margin, he got 8 points there statewide. He owes it to the Twin Cities area here. The area.
Pretty typical. Pretty typical. Look at that. Looks like my state of Illinois, where it's all blue in Chicago, but the rest of the state is red. These are Democrat-controlled areas that vote, but at least it's a good sign that the support is not there. The true, actual support is not there for this man.
I think that it wants Trump in.
What else have we got here for you? This came across my radar last night, and this is from April 24th of 2020. I'm just going to let the clip speak for itself.
On 5 times. This is a momentous occasion for inclusion of religion in Minneapolis. With the stroke of this pen, we and our Muslim community will have the ability to hear the call to prayer in Adhan 5 times a day. But importantly, this is not just about our Muslim community. This is about all of us that have some form of faith or religion, from the church bells to the blow of the shofar to Adhan and call to prayer.
Okay, there's a big difference between church bells. Church bells ring on the hour. The shofar is blown inside of a temple. The call to prayer is done on loudspeakers throughout cities. Very, very different. Okay, and it is an audible, spoken call to action. So to equate the call to prayer with a church bell or a shofar is very different.
This is about inclusion, peace, and freedom of religion. Assalamu alaikum. And with this, inshallah is done.
So there you have it. And where's the separation of church and state people on this? I mean, they go up in arms. You want to put the 10 Commandments up. Now they're passing laws in Minneapolis. Please. This is all part of the greater narrative. And of course, who can forget when they decided to change the flag of Minnesota so it could resemble the Somalian flag? We covered that here on the Next News Network. Of course.
All right, ready. Whoa, wait a minute.
Oh, wait a minute. What are you doing? Oh, yeah. Look at that. Removing the great seal of the state to appease.
There, that's better. All right, ready.
Yeah. Sure. And if you're curious, here is a flag of the state of Somalia. Look at that. A blue field, a white star, and 2 green stars. And what does he present? It is a blue field, a white star, and a white field. Make everyone feel right at home. Let's take a look at how Vance is reacting to this.
This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs.
I will reiterate that his connections with Palantir and Palantir Gotham and his involvement with the CIA and biometrics, military contractors, really, again, it. I think that neither option is going to be good for the future of the world. I know that sounds dramatic, but they're still going to be pushing the same agendas that scripts that people that have no national that they're going to keep on pushing are people that are lobbyists and propagandists and shares and stocks and wealth in the military pharmaceutical industrial complex. It is what it is. And we have people that are in government, again, like not the lower levels, I'm talking about at the top, that are getting so much money and they're lying to us. And that's how they're getting us to agree to give our money towards them, their friends, and people, again, that have international vested interests, not Canadian, not American, not UK, not New Zealand, not Australia. Hate to break it to you. Like, we need new people. We need a lot of people to get investigated and fired and jailed, got blackmailed, bribed, or just completely ignorant and just pushing a party line and thinking that they have no responsibility to us when they're getting to get to, again, especially cabinet. There's no excuses for their ignorance.
Jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does. I think it's interesting, actually. They make an interesting tag team because, of course, Tim Wolf, the rioters burned down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, and then the few who got caught, Kamala Harris helped bail them out of jail. So it's more instructive for what it says about Kamala Harris. She doesn't care about the border. She doesn't care about crime. She doesn't care about American energy. And most importantly, she doesn't care about the Americans who have been made to suffer under those policies.
Got more reaction from J.D. Vance. So much is happening here. Where is that clip of J.D. Vance? I know we've got another one here that he just responded to. Folks, Donald Trump says, and I know I sound strong, and it's just, I'm frustrated with just the direction that this country is going. That we have people who are being chosen as a vice president or a vice presidential candidate.
Yeah, and so I will admit I was way off with my possible picks. I was thinking Oprah, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama. But yeah, so I was
that have absolutely no regard for the safety of the people they govern. as evidenced by the streets of Minneapolis, as evidenced by his statements about bringing a ladder to the border, about stripping the flag of the state of its seal to appease a group of people.
But you know what? There are more whistleblowers moving forward, exposing a lot of crimes and ethical violations and conflicts of interest. And so maybe there's just going to be a lot more dirt on this guy that's going to come out, where he's forced to step down. I don't see that happening because there's a lot of people that have financial crimes, including everyone in Senate, or almost everyone, and they're still working. Dan Crenshaw comes to mind. Even in 2017, like a massive fine because of financial crimes. And we start investigating this. I really hope that our anti-rackets units internationally start focusing on that. It's not to tell people how to job. They're the experts, not me. It's just, it would be nice because like this is the stuff that's going to stop this stuff from further getting perpetuated, right? Like I'm not saying they're not hard job and long hours, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying that they're not being like for Canada or the US, et cetera, but maybe some people should be specifically targeted and selected committees and investigations into the financial crimes of people, again, with like the experts during COVID and cabinet members and who had stocks in certain companies, and look at their partners and their families as well. I'm sure, I'm hoping.
This is where we're at, folks. This is from one of.
If you want any help or assistance, if anyone from those divisions or units are listening, I have a lot of medical, scientific, and government data I can provide to assist with this, and email correspondence and call logs, etc.
America News. Here is the recent clip here. Let me get this back up for you here. This is what I was looking for.
But I think that what Tim Walz's selection says is that Kamala Harris has been to the far left of her party, which is what she always does. Kamala Harris listened to the Hamas wing of the party. She selected Tim Walz, a guy who wants to ship more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to give illegal aliens driver's license, and who wants to make the fentanyl crisis that we've heard about so much worse because he refuses to do his job and actually make it easier for American citizens and not illegal aliens to live a good life. So I think what it says is that Kamala Harris is running as a San Francisco liberal. She is governed as a San Francisco liberal, and she's chosen a running mate who will be a San Francisco style liberal. The last thing that I'll say about Tim Walz is, to her credit, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz do make an interesting team, because if we remember the rioting in the summer of 2020, Tim Walz was the guy who let rioters burn down Minneapolis, and then Kamala Harris was the one who bailed the rioters out of jail. So there.
Oh. Anyway.
Yeah. Now, before we depart from this, I want to play what could be seen as a potential debate between Walz and Vance, because during a debate,
it's almost over. You're gonna do that.
What could be seen as a debate between Walz and Vance, because during a debate, the question was brought up about abortion, and Vance perfectly destroyed his opponent. Here's the clip. This is from Greg Price. If you're wondering how the Vance West debate
Family Soju
as an exception.
Look, I've always believed exceptions. This is a misrepresentation of my view, but let's hear it from me, not from Congressman Ryan. I absolutely think the 10-year-old girl, the case that
Sorry about that. Oh my goodness, right, that's a good point. I'll try this one more time again, just because it's almost over.
I've got a 9-year-old baby girl at home. I cannot imagine what that's like for the girl, for her family. God forbid something like that would happen. I've said repeatedly on the record that I think that girl should be able to get an abortion if she and her family so choose to do so. But let's talk about that case, because why was a 10-year-old girl raped in our community, raped in our state in the first place? The thing the media and Congressman Ryan, they talk about this all the time. The thing they never mentioned is that poor girl was raped by an illegal alien. Somebody should have never been in this state in the first place. You voted so many times against border wall funding, so many times for amnesty, Tim. If you had done your job, she would have never been. Do your job on border security. Don't lecture.
There you have it. I don't want to end on that note, but I will. But, there's just a lot going on in the world right now, and it just takes accountability at all levels and people to actually, with an unbiased viewpoint, in order to rectify what's going on, right? Because it's not getting any better, unfortunately, because people that are still pushing the same agenda that doesn't assist anyone at the lower levels, they're still working in positions where they're enabling this, supporting this, and so it'd be nice if people would reach out to me. I give my contact information to everyone that I send information to, and I have my business card, literally photo on all my social media platforms. So very easy to find me. And guys, on the note, I will leave it at that. I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. And check out the Helen Bruce trials.